on? Is that working?
I just passed her by, so I came back, and I turned on Beckley Station, and I stopped, that's when I called you, but then I Google mapped it, and they said, okay, turn here, go back, you know, I'm never gonna do this or something, but I'm out here just enough not to be comfortable how to get here. You know, I kept looking for the eggplant thing, you know.
The exit here.
Did you bring your Fender Rhodes like I told you?
I did not. I did not. I brought the Wurlitzer.
Okay.
It's got a little barky sound to it, you know.
Okay.
No, they have a Fender Rhodes software synthesizer.
They have everything. Every vintage keyboard is
And
in
it's
some.
got all these presets for these different sounds.
Which makes my heart feel good, and out of all the technology, what do people want?
Electromechanical.
I've got
Some Mellotron, I
Yep.
mean.
Yep.
Wurlitzer.
Ooh, a Mellotron.
Made an electric piano. Wurlitzer made an electric piano, and it's similar to the Rhodes.
Yep.
And I've got that software.
Yep.
That's the Wurlitzer sound.
And I love how when you dig into it, I played one, and I've never owned one, but I've played it. And when you dig into it, it barks at you, it growls a little bit. It's like pretty, and then the harder you hit it, it turns into this sort of like slight overdriven sound. It's really expressive.
Well, back in my way early days, I owned a Farfisa single keyboard, and you know it was fine, whatever. But I didn't realize that's the Doors sound.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's like, oh, okay. You know, no, not a Farfisa. A Vox Continental.
But they were both with the same kind of thing. They were electronic as opposed to.
And so we played a game one time, and I got rained on bad. And our gear was
L was
well, all the keys on the keys. So the next day, the entire keyboard was locked up.
Because it's swelled.
Swelled up, and they never swelled back. So I basically now had a lot of time. Well, I wasn't going to pay any money to try to fix that thing. So I remember, unless I'm throwing it away or giving it to far out music or something, I got something else. But you have a whole keyboard locked up.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you talk to any keyboard player, and they're going to tell you a story about something they owned that they thought was like, you know, passé and old.
Yeah.
Like I owned, my first synthesizer I ever bought was a Sequential Circuits.
Okay.
It was a 6-track, was what it's called. It was kind of, did a lot of things, but nothing especially well. And I used it for a while and ended up like, well, it doesn't sound like a piano, it doesn't sound like a whatever. So I sold it for something that was more like a Rompler. And if I'd kept it, you know, those old keyboards just appreciate, and you know, you just can't get them in good condition.
Well, like I told you, 20 years ago, I sold my old Minimo for like $500, not even knowing what those things go for now.
Yeah.
Killing me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
who'd have thought?
Yeah.
I still got my art string ensemble, but it needs some repair work bad.
I know a guy who can do that.
Do you?
I do. He's right by U of L.
Okay.
He's an electrical engineer who's got this side business of fixing keyboards.
Okay. I may take you up on that.
Yeah, he's very good. He fixed. I brought him an ARP Pro Soloist that I found. So I bought it. It wasn't working. I paid him to repair it. Paid him a lot. So it it ended up flipping it. It didn't work very well for what I needed.
That was the lead keyboard.
Yep.
Patrick Raz,
Yep.
everybody.
Yeah, Tony Banks. Yeah.
Well, and I think like the Yamaha CP70, you know, just a different sound, and that was
Two people
Tony
watching,
Banks.
that's a good
Yep.
thing.
There's one for sale in Louisville. It's on Facebook Marketplace. Yeah. Hi there. Good. How's it going? Come on in.
Well, thank you.
Take a seat anywhere.
I used to have
You can sit on the front row or like be in church.
What'd you have?
Sit on the back row.
Yamaha synthesizer. I don't know what brand. Model number was.
Back was it analog? Back analog?
No, well, I mean, it was MIDI. I mean,
That was MIDI.
it had MIDI. That was a good. Had weighted keys.
Huh?
So I liked that, but it
That was a
finally
big deal,
wore out.
weighted
Finally, I
keys.
had that
Yeah.
25 years.
Made it change everything.
Yep, yep.
It was just, I figured it cost me more to fix it than it would be to just replace it. So when I moved, I tossed it.
Yeah.
Taking up space.
I have that issue actually.
Huh?
I have that issue. So we have anybody online?
Two, three,
Okay. All right.
people.
Can they see us? Wait.
I can't, I'm
not, I have a title slide. I'd be happy to put the camera on. There you go. You are now the
Welcome.
guy who does not have the microphone is saying welcome.
Welcome. That guy says welcome.
Yeah, all right.
I say welcome too. All right. Oh, I want to check the date on something so I can make that announcement.
What's the Celestron version? It's with the origin? That sound right?
Next, it's,
It's like $3 or $4 grand or something.
I don't know what it is.
Celestron? Yeah, Celestron.
What is it?
Mm-hmm. November, December 10th. Okay. Shall we get started?
Sure.
All right, very good. So welcome everybody. I'm Steve Katsikis. It's good that you all are out on this very cloudy, rainy day. And as far as we can see into the forecast, it looks to be cloudy except for tomorrow, where we're expecting a window somewhere between 7 or 8 at night and maybe all night.
Yeah.
Maybe. So Kirby will be open for members tomorrow. If folks are watching this, we're going to be recording today, so if folks are watching this after the fact, Kirby is our observatory in southern Indiana, and it is open and available for members, and we often have public viewing parties out at Kirby. And that will be next weekend. Okay, very good. You can always find out what's going on at Kirby by going to our website, which is louisville-astro.org. Where we get some, our information flows out, and you need to check it before you head out to Kirby to make sure that things are a go. And you can also follow what the Louisville Astronomical Society is doing through our Facebook page, which is almost in real time all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Couple of announcements. We have the members' holiday party is going to be on the 10th of December, and it's a lot of fun. It's a good meal. It's going to be catered again by Mark's Feed Store, which does always a wonderful job. If you have not bought your ticket yet, you just go to that same website I mentioned, louisville-astro.org, and right there on the front page, I don't know how this happens. It just magically appears this time of year.
What a great webmaster.
Yeah, we must have an amazing webmaster who is so good that we don't ever have to remind him because things
Isn't
just.
Tom a great guy?
Yeah, Tom is a great guy. Tom Hayes. There we go. Tom Hayes is here for those of you who can't see Tom, and he really does a great job on our website. But that's how you would use your credit card and buy your tickets in advance. I think they're $18 a person. And in addition to a wonderful meal, there's opportunities for, we'll have some raffle. We'll be giving away astronomy stuff. We'll set up some astronomy stuff. And what is that, Ronnie?
We're also selling some telescopes.
Oh, and we may have some telescopes for sale. I think we will have telescopes for sale. The group of the LAS responsible for helping with our donation receives and getting telescopes checked out and fixed up. We'll bring some telescopes out. So just in time for the holidays. I know that some folks just don't know what to get that special person for the holidays. But if your special person is into astronomy, there you go. There might be some opportunities for that. Do we have any announcements from any of our board members?
Do you want to mention our elections and kind of where that stands?
I do. Why are we giggling over there? One of our board members is giggling over there. We recently had elections, and the new members of the board will be installed in December. I think at the holiday party. I think that's where it's going to all go. I'm going to just kind of go by memory, so if I mess this up, I apologize. Shivansh is our new vice president. So yeah, we appreciate that. So excited to have him in that role. He's been, I believe, an at-large member for a bit, right? Yeah. And we have a new at-large member who's David, yes.
David,
Yes.
yeah.
Yep. David's our new at-large member.
With an E.
Yeah, there you go. So it's always good to get new folks involved, and If you are interested in having sort of more to do with the club than just kind of go to events, we have a lot of need for folks in the club. We have teams. We have outreach teams. So if you'd like to go to public events and point at various things in the sky out to folks who are newer at it, we've got an outreach team. We have an equipment team. And man, we have a lot of equipment in need of some assessments and some repair. Need some boxing up and shipping out, and we're becoming quite the museum of telescopes and astronomy. So we could probably use some help with that. And we have a Kirby team, and the Kirby team is always needed. We have a wonderful resource in our own observatory, and it takes people to make it go. And so that's an opportunity as well for new folks. So I think that's the election piece. Ronnie, you have anything to say about Kirby? Ronnie is our director of our observatory.
Indirectly.
You want to come up here?
Okay. I don't have a mic.
I'm handing you one. Here.
Is it the one on the spoon? It is. You get the spoon mic.
I like the blue color too. So my name is Ronnie Yates. I'm the director out of Kirby. I'm also a board member. I'm actually a librarian, and that's what I wanted to talk about. We have a lot of books at the UAC, and a whole lot of books that we've recently been given, really good books out at Kirby. And we need to inventory all of that, find out what we got, what we can do with them. Some of it I want, at least some of it, I want to keep at Kirby so that members can, if they, like we have double star catalog, any kind of catalogs like that can be used when they're observing. If they have a question, they can reference it. And then we have, who was it? It was our former president, Bob Cruz, gave us a bunch of books on how to make telescopes and how to make lenses, how to make mirrors. I mean, these are all the professional stuff, really well, how to really make good stuff. And those books are valuable if you got somebody that's interested in actually making their own telescope and stuff. So that's something that I want to keep, and I'd like to, at least for now, keep it at Kirby. And we need, that comes to Kirby, we need to do a thorough bottom up or up, top down cleaning of Kirby, because we've got bugs. Got some of the stuff in the corners and along the walls that it's hard to clean along the bottom, with all the stuff that's along there. So we've got a lot of dead bugs and stuff that have piled up in those corners and hard to reach places.
But it would be a fun time.
Yes, that's
right. So put on some good music.
We provide pizza.
That's a pizza party.
There you go.
So what I'm saying is I could use a couple of volunteers to help to do the inventory, and I need some volunteers to do the end of the year cleanup of the place, get it cleaned and fully swept and mopped, and then dried out, and then we got to winterize it. So there's some things we got to do to winterize the place. So if anybody's interested, just contact me, send me a private message, or if you got my number, you can text me or email.
I'll volunteer right now.
Okay, thanks, man.
You have dates on the volunteer?
All right.
Okay.
He's handing me the magic
For
spoon
which?
The magic spoon.
For which?
Whatever.
for the cleanup.
I'll help.
We've already talked about that, yeah, so.
I'll help with some inventory, with some cleanup, whatever.
Great. So yeah, we've had some volunteers in the room. Awesome. You want to any financial things you want to bring in, or
I can, just real quick.
just real quick, just
Okay.
kind of the state of the state.
That way I get to use the spoon.
I want to see you use the spoon.
So hello everybody, my name's Jeff McCaffrey, been a member for many, many years. I am the Astro Treasurer, and so I'm the guy who pays the bills, collect some dues, variety of things. And what's really been good about LAS throughout its history is that we've got really several different streams of income. So of course we have membership dues that we collect throughout the year. We also receive a pretty good amount of money, a couple $1,000s a year on scouting events that Ronnie is very much into. So scouts come up to Kirby, spend the weekend or the night or whatever we put on a program, and there's a charge for doing that. We also have some equipment sales. We get some money, some contributions. So it's really nice to see that we have several different streams of income over the course of the year. So we're not necessarily totally reliant on one source. Our expenses, of course, we have to pay for Kirby, pay for UAC, utilities, insurance, property taxes, repairs and maintenance, all that sort of thing. For those of you who've been around me long enough, I'm going to say the usual buzzwords here I always say is that one thing good about LAS is that we have no outstanding debt. We don't have any bank loans, no lines of credit. So everything is paid in full, and we're able to maintain our operations, pay our bills with ongoing operating funds. So financially and fiscally, that works out real well for us. So the one thing I always have to kind of mention this time of year, and again at the holiday party, is we're getting close to year end. As you probably know, LAS is a qualified public charity, a 501c3. We accept generous donations, which are tax deductible. And if you're looking for some last-minute gift-giving ideas, in your budget, we would be more than appreciative to accept your donation to help support the activities of LAS. So if anybody has any questions regarding the financial matters of the organization, feel free to reach out to me anytime. Be glad to answer what I can. Ronnie?
I do have a question, and it's partially financial, but partially planning. And it has to do with our 20-inch telescope.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to find out what the status was of that plan.
Okay. So for those of you who don't know, a few years ago we were very fortunate in receiving a donation of a really nice Starmaster?
No.
Or Obsession? Obsession 20-inch telescope. And that's sitting up at Kirby inside our multi-purpose building. Well, a lot of discussion ensued about we need an appropriate independent facility to house that scope so we can have easier access, maintain it, house it, that sort of thing. So without going into a whole lot of details, we are currently in the process of laying a separate concrete observing pad and an accompanying shed, barn, like a pole barn, to house that telescope. We got some bids, had contractor come out, and so that was approved at the last board meeting. Our current status on that is the weather. The concrete guys were supposed to have been out last week to lay the concrete, and then Mother Nature got in the way. So right now, his next date would be the 24th, which that's only a couple days away. With this rain, that's probably going to get postponed as well. So, and if the weather keeps going this way, we may be into spring. I really want to get this thing done before winter sets in, but we'll just have to kind of see. But we've made a deposit on the concrete. I've already gotten all the spec sheet and everything for the barn. I have not ordered that yet because I don't want that thing to come in and they're going to say, we need to bring this out. We got no place to put it.
Right.
So once the concrete is laid, then the barn will take a couple of weeks to get that. They bring it, set it, and all's good to go. So that project is currently in process. Yeah. So full speed ahead. So again, any questions on that, feel free to let me know. So with that, I'm going to pass it back over to Steve.
Okay, thank you. One thing I didn't mention with our elections is that we have a whole bunch of board members who are sticking around in their board position. So Pat Peak's moving from vice president to at large. Kenny is staying at large. Jeff is staying is the treasurer. Tom is staying as our webmaster. And Ronnie is sticking around as the librarian and the observatory director. So, oh, I'm sorry. Yep. And Lauren is sticking around as outreach coordinator. Any others I'm missing? Oh, and Ken Alderson, yes, thank you, as historian.
Historian.
Yep, okay. So our presentation today is based on our most popular question that comes from the public to the LAS. And we get lots of different questions. We get questions about what was that light in the sky? We get questions about what's the best time of year to look for this, that, or the other thing. But I would say the most common question we get is a variation of what telescope should I buy, from folks in the public who are curious about the hobby, have an interest in the night sky. And our answer is always some version of it depends, right? It really depends on goals and whatnot. So in planning for today, we talked a little bit about what might be helpful is to do a presentation on a lot of different options of different kinds of telescopes. And I'll just set the stage that there is no one perfect telescope that does it all. That some telescopes excel at certain things, other telescopes excel at other things. I'm unaware of a single thing that you could purchase that would let you look at, for example, planets with a lot of magnification, or wide swaths of the sky like nebula, or galaxies, things that are really good for lunar observation or solar observation. So there's lots of different telescopes. So the broad answer to what kind of telescope should you buy is going to be an it depends. You really need to think a little bit about where you'd like to start in the hobby. And most of the members in this club, and I haven't taken a poll on it, but most of us have more than one telescope. We started with one and kind of used that to do all sorts of things, and then probably at some star party, we put our eye in somebody else's eyepiece and saw something else that we hadn't seen through our telescope, and really fell in love with something else. But you always start with one, and so that's a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to just have some members show what they're using, talk a little bit about how their telescope works, and from their own personal experience, what they think it excels in, maybe what it's not so good at, or the strengths and weaknesses of each telescope. And hopefully at the end of our presentation, folks who watch this will have a sense of maybe a little bit closer of an idea about what they might like. I will say before you run out and buy a telescope, even after watching this and repeating it and watching it again and watching it again, there's no substitute for coming to a star party and putting your eyes into a telescope or taking a look at what folks are looking at and really deciding for yourself what makes sense as a place to get started. And again, we welcome public folks out to our public parties. If you're watching this from afar, you're not part of Louisville's Astronomical Society, but you found this presentation, you should know that there are star clubs in almost every region of the United States that has any population to it, and even some that are more rural. So you can go ahead and find out your local star club and go join them for a star party and take a peek as well. So we're going to start. I'm going to ask Kenny Napper to come up and start with a Dobsonian telescope. I'm going to share my, here, we'll share that one.
Yep.
Here we go. I love this, the spoon mic. This is
We're a high-tech organization.
we are.
Here.
We save all our money for our telescopes. Here you go, Kenny.
I'm going to start with just describing this telescope right here. This is a 10-inch Newtonian reflector on a Dobsonian base. And what a Dobsonian base is, the base goes around and the tower goes up and down. So this has a Crawford focuser on it, a red dot finder. That's how you find the objects you want to look at more efficiently. And let's see, this is a steel tube Dob. They do make some of them in aluminum, and they are lighter than this one. Yes. So let me get to if I didn't mention that this is a 10-inch. The mirror back here is 10 inches in diameter. This is a friction type balancer. You can adjust it are many different ways, smoother and tighter. Anyway, that's just one of the many types of Dobsonian bases. Some are just balance, some of them are spring-loaded. And okay, so let me get on with what I like about this. I like about this is it's fast setup at the site when you move. And the next thing I really like, and I didn't know this when I first bought it, it's very durable. It's indestructible. Okay, and that's because of the heavy-duty metal it's made out of. Anyway, and also for if you're impatient like I am, you can go from one side of the sky to another that fast to find something to switch your targets. And that's probably the number one advantage of having a Dob. You don't have to get one this large. They have Dobs from like probably 4.5 up to this 10 and way beyond, okay? But, and let me get to the biggest negative for one of these, and that is they're extremely bulky. You have to have a large vehicle to haul this thing around in. So, and also, this is something, I don't think it would have mattered to me, but something limits the magnification you can use on this. The higher magnification, the faster it moves out of your sight. So you get to a certain magnification and you can't move it fast enough. You're not able to. All righty. Let me add one more thing about Dobs. You can get them now in, this is non-driven. You can get them in go-to, which means it has setting circles on it, and you can get them to push to where it has a little screen and guides you, helps you find the targets in the sky, and that's computerized. Those two options are computerized. That's about all I have on basics. Is that good enough?
Yeah.
All righty.
All right, thank you.
Give it to the next one.
I have a basic question. Basic question for someone buying a telescope. You said that's a 10-inch, and they're available in 8-inch and so on. What's the difference with them? Why should I get one over the other?
Smaller ones are easier to move around. You need a smaller vehicle. Cost, larger they are, the more they cost.
And why do I want a large one?
You want a large one because you can see fainter and fainter objects with it. And let me add, this was supposed to be my starter scope. Well, I've had it 20 years, and it's the one I use the most, okay? And when I joined the club, I knew all I wanted to do was visual astronomy. So that's one reason I've stuck with it. And I'm done.
I have another question.
All right.
So we're keeping you up here. So does it, because you're putting different eyepieces in it, is it pretty versatile? Like you can see planets, but you could also see things that are wider field. Does it allow you to sort of go to a range of different kinds of objects?
Well, of course, the lower the focal length on your eyepiece gives you a wider field of view with these. And it is quite good for when you, conjunctions, I've used it for pretty far away conjunctions because I have an 80 millimeter eyepiece, focal length. I have had people tell me that planets have looked better than my scope than some of the refractors. So I'm just going by what the public has told me sometimes, and that's probably just because it gathers so much light. That's the advantage of a larger mirror on a reflector like this. Any more?
All right, thank you, Kenny. Okay, Ronnie?
Okay. I'm going to talk about Schmidt-Cassegrain's telescopes, which, if you don't know anything about them, I can turn this way. You can see the mirror back here in the back, and then up here in the front, there's a corrector plate, and that corrector plate helps correct the optics because of the type of optics they use in these things. But this is typically gives you a more magnification and less space. For instance, this is 8-inch f6.3, so essentially this scope, its magnification is twice what you would get if you had a similar length Newtonian telescope. So if you stretch this out to what the Newtonian set out, this telescope would be about this long. So it's the advantage of these scopes is they're smaller, they're lighter than say that, and so that makes them a lot easier to move around when you're moving it from A to B, or if you're going to a star party or whatever. They also have good optics, generally have good optics, and are well corrected. This one is different than most of them. Most of these are like f10. This one has a focal ratio f6.3, which gives it a wider field of view, which means it collects a wider, because it has a wider field of view, it's collecting more atoms of light, or atoms? No, photons of light. Sorry about that. That's what happens when I try to do science when I haven't done it for a long time. But this one I've got set up. This one has these are what they call the Schmidt-Cassegrain. This backside here has special threads, and they're Schmidt-Cassegrain threads. So all your things that you want to connect to this telescope have to have those threads. But I wanted to set up a DSLR camera to it, which means I have to have an adapter on my camera that'll fit in here. This is a 2-inch, the equivalent of a focuser without being a focuser. It's got the 2-inch adapter on it, and then it's got Schmidt threads here, so you can just thread it onto the scope and then mount your camera right into it, right there. So that's a real easy way to do imaging. And this camera, this telescope, most of these telescopes that are f10 are great for planetary work. This one, I haven't used it yet for imaging, but it's supposed to be better for wider field of view, planetary work, or nebulas and stuff. So, but I haven't used it for that yet, so we have to see. Hopefully next year we'll get that in. This one here is it's the same kind, except this one is on an alt azimuth drive, and it is a go-to. So you have the hand controller for that. And I'm not going to plug it in and turn it on or anything like that. But this is a nice scope here for visual. And I know some people. I know one person in our club has an 8-inch version of this, and she takes really good photographs with it. Talking about Susan King.
Yep.
So I don't know if y'all have seen her photographs. She's an incredible photographer, and she takes photographs with this mount, and 8-inch next star. So,
We have a question here.
Question. Could you explain what a go-to is?
a go-to is an electronic device on your mount that allows you to say you want to look at Mars, but you don't know where Mars is in the sky, so you don't know where to point. This thing will point at it. You got to train it at the very beginning, but it's not hard. It's easy to train these things. But once they're trained, you just tell it what you want to look at and it'll point at it. That's a go-to. It goes to whatever you tell it you want to see. So that's a go-to. And then that's all I've got. Any questions?
Right, thank you, Ronnie.
Okay.
Okay. Next, we're going to invite Jeff to talk about refracting telescopes. Oh, I know. I changed my mind.
I'm gonna cheat and use some written notes.
You put that.
What's the matter?
Okay, again, I'm Jeff McCaffrey, the Astro Treasurer, and I tend to be more of a refractor kind of a guy. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. I want to take a second and sort of coattail on a comment that Steve made earlier about as you are out looking and investigating, researching, you know, what type of telescope, what kind of design and so forth. Again, the common question we get is, what's the best telescope to get? And the answer in our hobby is always consistent, and that is the best telescope to have is the one that you're going to use the most. Okay? So a lot of people, myself included, own multiple telescopes. And some scopes are a lot more laborious to have to set up and pack and carry to an off-site or in your backyard or whatever. Other scopes are a lot smaller, maybe a lot lighter and easier to set up. You tend to use the smaller setup more so than the bigger setup. So some of the problem that you see with maybe a beginner is they look at some behemoth like that over there and say, Mommy, that's what I want for Christmas, okay? And that's great, but then you get into, it's a heavier, more cumbersome type of scope. You're gonna see a lot with that because it's got a big aperture to it, okay, a big size mirror. But then there's some trade-offs regarding, you know, the accessibility and the ease of use of it. Like Kenny said, you don't just put that in the back seat of your car. You might need, you know, a hatchback or an SUV or something. So that's something to always consider with a larger size scope. So as you're shopping for a telescope, you know, always kind of keep that in mind as well. So, you know, you see different types of scopes, the Dobsonians, the Smith-Cassegrains. What I'm going to focus on here this evening are what's called a refracting telescope. And the other thing that's important to understand is whatever type of telescope that you're looking at, all telescopes have the exact same purpose, and that is to gather and focus light. Each type of telescope just does it in a different way. Some telescopes utilize lenses, some telescopes utilize mirrors, okay, and have different optical designs and how they capture that light and put it into a focus point that you can take a look at it, all right? So we're going to talk about refractors here for a few minutes. And looking at refractors, I want to talk about some things to consider when considering buying one and some pros and cons. And, you know, when I say pros and cons about a refractor or reflector or whatever, I sort of hate to use the term pros and cons, but rather different attributes to different types of telescopes, okay? It's up to you to determine what's a pro and a con, but I sort of hate to use globally that terminology to sort of ding on someone's telescope or ding on my telescope. It's just kind of what fits in what you're looking for. So, in a refracting telescope, well, as Kenny mentioned, his Dobsonian, that's a mirror-based telescope. So at the bottom of the tube, it's a giant mirror. The light comes in the end, the light bounces off a primary mirror, it bounces off a secondary mirror, and then you look at it through the eyepiece, okay? Not too unlike the design of like the Hubble Space Telescope. And so, same type of thing. With a refractor, it uses not a mirror, but a lens element, okay? Not too unlike your glasses that you're wearing, okay? If you think about what your glasses are, the glasses capture that light and helps to focus it in your eyeball. And that's really what a refractor does. So there is a lens at the front of the telescope. The light comes in at the front. The lens then bends or refracts that light down into a focus point where then it hits this unit, which is called a diagonal, which then bounces it up into the eyepiece to be able to see. So that's a little bit different than how a mirror system works, using a lens versus a mirror. One thing when I talk to some folks, I always kind of throw a little bone out and I say, how many people own a telescope? And you might every so often see someone raise their hand. And then I tell people, the fact is, pretty much everybody owns 2 telescopes, and that's your eyes, right? Think about what your eyes do. Your eyes gather and focus light onto your optic nerve so you're able to see what you're looking at. And that's really what a telescope does. Again, gathers the light and it focuses onto a point so that you can see it. All right? Let's see. Talk about that. When you look through a telescope, sometimes you're going to see the image look a little different orientation than looking at it at the sky. And that's just an optical thing. So like in a refractor like this, when you look at an object, the object is going to be flipped left to right. All right, so if you're looking at the moon or a planet or some other object, it's just simply flipped. And I think with the Dobsonian, I think it's flipped and upside down. Is that right? And that's just the way the light comes in and bounces here and there and how it comes out in the eyepiece. So that, you get used to it. It's not that big of a deal. And if you think about it, out in outer space, there's really not an up or down, left or right. Okay, there's not really directions per se in outer space. And when you're looking through a telescope, you don't really worry about the orientation of an object. There are ways that you can orient the object you're looking at to match the view that you see naked eye looking up at the sky. But just be aware when and I've heard this before, at a star party we have different types of telescopes. Somebody will look in my telescope and they'll say, well, how come yours is left to right and this one over here was upside down? So it's important to understand you're going to see maybe a different orientation of the object that you're looking through a telescope. Refractors come in a variety of sizes. The sizes are normally measured by the size of the objective lens itself, okay? So meaning that the lens that's in the front of the telescope is a certain size, generally measured in millimeters, okay? So it's not having to do with the length of the tube, but the size of the lens. So in particular, refractors, for the most part, come in sizes ranging from like 50 millimeters or 2 inches up to about 150 millimeters, about 6 inches, okay? So to kind of put that in perspective, this scope right here is an 80 millimeter telescope, which is a very usual and standard size refracting telescope, okay? This big boy I got back here, this is a 130 millimeter telescope. It's a 5.1 inch scope, all right? So as I mentioned before, what's the best scope to use? The one that you're going to get, the one that you use the most. So I have some fabulous views, and I really enjoy using my big behemoth here on a big behemoth mount. But the one I typically have set up in my basement or in the garage and use the most is this little guy right here, okay? So they're just used for different purposes. And then just because I like collecting refractors, I guess. So again, this is an 80 millimeter, this is 130 millimeter. Kind of going down the scale, this one, which is close to it, this is a 70 millimeter telescope, okay? And then if you like little baby telescopes, this is a 60 millimeter telescope. And this little guy here, I just recently got, this is a 50 millimeter telescope, okay? Now, think about this. We're going to come over here, and this is a 10-inch telescope, okay? So this is a 2-inch telescope. So you can see there's a little bit of difference in the size of the telescope. All right. So that's something to consider regarding weight, maneuverability, that sort of thing, but also the light gathering ability of the different size scopes. That thing over there is what is commonly called, one of the scientific phrases we use in this hobby, a light bucket. Okay? And people who have things like that are also accused. Okay, and that's where you want a big telescope to gather as much light as you possibly can. Clearly, I do not suffer from aperture fever owning a telescope like this. But this thing sure is a lot of fun to pack around in the back seat of my car, obviously carry on, on an airplane, put on a little camera tripod, and I'm good to go. All right? So those are some of the considerations in looking at different size of telescopes. One thing I also like to kind of point out when you're looking at the size telescopes, one of the things I mentioned here a minute ago is that your eyes are in effect refracting telescopes. To kind of put that in perspective, like I said, this is a standard 80 millimeter telescope, which means that the lens up front is 80 millimeters in diameter, and that's the amount gathering that light. Your eyeball itself is about 25 millimeters, okay? Well, the whole eyeball is not gathering light, only the pupil is. And your pupil ranges somewhere between 2 and 8 millimeters in size, okay? So think about when you're out at night and your eyes dilate and you can see, dark things in the sky. Your eyeball only captures so much light. So you're talking about the difference of an 8 millimeter diameter lens or light gathering versus even a 50 millimeter, let alone a 130 millimeter, let alone a full 10-inch scope. So you can see there's a vast difference in the light gathering ability of your eyes versus a telescope, okay? So keep that in mind. Let's see, let's talk about that. Talked about light buckets, aperture rules. Again, I'm cheating here looking at my notes. Obviously, you can tell, refractors generally, maybe with the exception here a little bit, but refractors generally are smaller in size than other types of telescopes, which again allows them to be more friendly to carry around and to pack, smaller, that sort of thing. All right. So one of the things that I like about this is what's typically called a grab and go setup. So I keep this in my house all set up just like it is. If I want to go out and look at something for 15 minutes or just a few minutes, I just pick this bad boy up and carry it out the door. It's just not that heavy, okay? With a big scope like that, what is really good about that Dob is that it's basically 2 pieces that you carry out, put together, and as you said, you're up and running pretty quick. But you generally have to make 2 trips. So you carry out the rocker box and then carry out the tube. So in other types of scopes, if you've got, like this scope right here on a larger mount with counterweights, I'm talking 4 or 5 trips in and out of the house to set this bad boy up. So the time and the hassle to set up a setup, again, depends upon what you're looking to do, what your goals are, what you want to take a look at, and the convenience of it. So I would say that his scope is convenient to grab and take outside, only a couple of trips. A smaller scope, something like this, is more of a all-in-one grab and go and carried it out. Again, you're talking much larger aperture, more of a light bucket. You're going to have brighter images versus not as much light gathering ability. So, again, there are kind of trade-offs there. Question, yes, sir.
Can you talk a little bit about the difference in prices?
Okay, I got a note about here on that too. Okay. Another thing too is that refractors, I think by far are best for daytime viewing. So if you think about it, I know people who maybe live on a lake or they're going on vacation and they set up a telescope on their patio or they do bird watching. Okay, so if you're doing bird watching or nature watching, or most importantly, it gives you the ability to look at your neighbor down the street. Okay, not near as easy to do that with a Dobsonian or Schmidt-Cassegrain. So that does give you some more flexibility and the ability to use a refractor during the daytime. Ronnie mentioned price. Generally, well, not generally, it is, that refractors are more expensive per millimeter of size than any other telescope, just because it's a more complicated and expensive process to make lenses than it is mirrors. So that's something you're going to have to deal with. You're going to be able to get, you know, a 6-8-inch Dob for, and I'm not going to throw a price out. Do what? That was 1,000? Okay. So you're going to be able to get, you know, a serious light bucket. Let's say for 1,000, you keep the numbers, okay, roughly $1,000, okay? Something on the lines of this is going to be not a whole lot less expensive than that. It's just that you're talking, you know, a 3-inch scope versus a 10-inch scope. So again, it's a matter of looking at, you know, looking through these telescopes at a star party or public event that we have on, and comparing what you see, what you like, and the ergonomics and mechanics of working with these telescopes. So keep that in mind. Refractors tend to be the telescope design of choice for imagers, for doing photography. There are some exquisite photography and imaging done with Schmidt-Cassegrains because of the short tube and the configuration. Really not so much with Dobsonians, but you do with refractors. Refractors tend to have real pristine, sharp images, pinpoint stars, looking at things like planets, double stars, stars, brighter, what we call DSO objects, deep sky objects. So nebula, star clusters, that sort of thing. And also wide field view. So you can take a small refractor with a wide view eyepiece and you can just scan the Milky Way, some larger items like the Pleiades, some nebula, that sort of thing. So you know, whether you use a dedicated astronomy camera or just a DSLR, basically your telescope becomes a very nice, you know, telephoto lens for a photography setup. Let's see. You know, as Steve kind of said too, you know, I look at the telescope world much like those people who, like myself, I like fishing. I go fishing quite a bit, not enough, but you think about your typical fisherman who goes out for the weekend or a trip, or they got their bass boat or whatever. I guarantee you they do not own one fishing pole, right? They have a variety of poles for different purposes. You know, they've got casting rods and spinning rods, fly rods. They have, you know, different pound tests. They may have a 6-pound test rod, a 15-pound, different types of baits, topwater baits, crankbaits, spinner baits, whatever. Each of those setups has a different reason, a different purpose for what you use a fishing pole for. And that's a lot of comparability in the telescope world. So you get some really crazy guys who end up with a collection of 15, 20 different types of scopes that they use for different purposes. So
An example of that would be that scope over there.
that what?
That scope up there.
Yeah,
We'll talk
yeah.
about that soon.
And that's what he's going to talk about here in a second.
Just like this one, except it's not.
Yeah. So anyway, I tend to be a refractor kind of a guy. I started out with a refractor. I really enjoy it. It is a lot of fun where I can look at my things and then I'll hop over to Kenny, you know, and see what he's looking at. He'll pop over and see what I'm looking at. And it's just a great way to share the night sky with club members who have different types of scopes, different types of eyepieces, and different types of interests of things they look in the night sky. So, any questions? Nope. If you do, I'll be around here. And with that, thank you very much. And I'll turn it over to Steve.
Okay, great. I'll put this down for a second.
You point out that they could chat in with a question. If
Oh,
there's 4 people
do we have any questions from online yet?
watching. Not yet.
Okay. All right. So one thing Jeff mentioned was, you know, fishing poles analogy about having scopes that do different things, and this one is a one-trick pony. It does one thing. It looks a little bit like that telescope. It looks like a refracting telescope. But this is a solar telescope. It's called a Coronado personal PST, personal solar telescope. And what this is designed to do is really look at the sun. Never, 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 never look at the sun with a telescope or binoculars or anything like that, even your bare eye, without protection. And by protection, I'm not talking about putting a piece of paper up there. Like, you have to have real protection, or you can very seriously and very quickly damage your eye. If you took this telescope and you looked at the sun for a second, you open your eye like this, and then looked at the sun for just a second through this telescope, you would be blinded forever. It is very, very dangerous. However, the sun is super interesting. There's some really interesting things going. Sun's also up. Not today, but because we have clouds. Well, it's up. It's up today. So if we were in a plane above the clouds, we'd see the sun. So the sun is something that you could look at any day. And it changes. The sun changes all the time. We're in a very active phase of the sun right now, and you can tell that by the amount of sunspots that's happening. You've probably seen the chatter about northern lights that have been available. And so to see the sun, you would need a solar telescope. And the way this telescope works is it is a safe way, when used properly and following directions, to see the sun. You'll see here, so there's a tube very similar to the way it works in a refracting telescope. The light is really kind of the same. It travels down the tube. It hits a mirror that's kind of like this one right here, and it goes into your eye. Okay? So why doesn't it blind you? What does it do? There's something very important that happens in this part of the telescope, in that there is a filter in that part of the telescope that filters out 99.99% of the light, which is super important, because if it didn't take all that light out, it would be dangerous. But of course, this is not dangerous because it's designed for looking at the sun. And by taking that big filter, and also the way this works is it sort of disperses the heat a little bit. By doing that, you can safely view the sun. And what can you see with the sun? Well, with a telescope like this, you can see features on the surface of the sun, and you can see features on the edges of the sun. So because I'm a person who likes PowerPoint, I'm going to put up a couple of slides that show a little bit about what you can see and a little bit about this telescope. So we've got the different parts of the telescope here. We've got a lens cover that goes on the end, and then the optical tube assembly. There's a focus knob. Looks a little bit different than the large one you would see on the refractor, but you can focus the image in of the sun. This is where you'd put your eyepiece. Now, you can use any eyepiece that you like. There's no special eyepiece needed, because this, in and of itself, it protects you from all of the things that you would need to worry about from looking at the sun. It's made by a company called Coronado that is owned by, or was owned by, Meade. Meade is no longer in business. If you want a Coronado telescope, you're going to look primarily on the used market. However, I found like OPT is still got some new ones.
OPT no longer exists.
Oh, not
They
OPT.
went out of business.
Well, whoever runs their website, you can.
Point bought all the Meade products.
Whoever owns their website, you can buy a brand new one of these still. There's still a few left. Most of them are on the used market. And there are versions of solar telescopes that are newer, that are now available. So there's some options there. The name of the filter is an H-alpha, hydrogen alpha filter. And you can see prominences. Those are the things that jump off the surface of the sun. Filaments and active regions. You see sunspots, but you see more than you would through just a plain filter at the end of a telescope, because this is the hydrogen filter. So it really helps with that. So this is a 80 millimeter, right? This is 130 millimeter. This is a 40 millimeter. It's a lot smaller. Is that a problem? It is not a problem, because the sun is really, really bright. You don't need a light bucket to get the sun. So you don't necessarily get the resolution that you would with a larger.
Laser pointer?
Oh, laser pointer, perfect. Thank you. Okay. Is that the top button points?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, very good. So it's very portable, very lightweight. It's easy for outreach. I took it out of the box and put it on the stand, and it's going to be very much like Jeff talked about. It's going to be grab and go in my garage. We'll put a sheet over it, keep it dust free, and when I want to go look at the sun during the day, I can go look at the sun. So we can see prominences, sunspots, solar flares, and features on the sun. This is a warning. This is, again, I know I'm being a little bit redundant on this, but these should not be modified. You shouldn't muck around with them. You shouldn't take pieces and parts out and put your own. Use it as it is designed for safety. It works on any kind of tripod. It's very light. I like it on an equatorial mount because if you set it up just the right way, you just kind of roll in the wheels and keep in the sun right in the center. Because it's the sun is going to look sort of big because it's a small aperture. It's going to be moving pretty much in your line of sight, so you're constantly going to keep it in the center. There is what's called an etalon, which is this little rolling thing in the middle. And it's not a focuser per se, but what it does is it changes the wavelength of sunlight that you're looking through. And so by playing around with this, and I say playing around because that's actually what you do. There's no guaranteed like you put it here. It'll make the prominences on the outer part of the sun appear much more bright, so you can see those happening. Or if what you're interested in is the surface features, you move it a little bit differently. So it'll bring the prominences as you roll it. So it depends what you want to look at, how that works. And that's called an etalon. I'm hoping to use this for astrophotography. And the way you would do astrophotography with a tool like this is something called lucky imaging, where you put a camera where the eyepiece normally goes. You put the camera in video mode. And video is nothing but lots and lots of stills. And so you put it in video mode, especially really fast video mode, and you capture as many images as you can. Sometimes you can capture as many as 3,000 to 8,000 frames, okay, if you want to see surface details, or 2,000 to 4,000 frames. That's what you're going to need. And you really are going to capture lots and lots of these and then take what's called the best 10 to 20%. And there's software where you basically import your video. It looks at the pictures, and because this thing is in the atmosphere shimmering, every so often the atmosphere is real still. It gets a really good picture, and then it gets another one. And so it takes all the best pictures, puts them together, and then you get a really nice picture. Will this advance the slide also?
If you plug the USB thing in.
Okay, I'll just do it by hand. So here's a couple of pictures that were taken with a PST, just to give you an idea. And this is not what it would look like if you basically put a solar filter on the edge of a refractor, which you can do. And you can see sunspots very safely and very nicely, as long as you're using a commercial grade one. But you can see here we've got a number of really cool features. You've got prominences, right? Especially this one right here. Prominences on the edge of the sun. And normally we can only see those during eclipses, but because we have a filter, we're able to see those. And then look at these really interesting filaments, they're called, these features on the sun. So the sun is not just this smooth ball of fire. It's got lots of little details going on, including sunspots that change and move around. And this is, again, with the PST. I did not take these. I wish I did. But now this is getting me excited to use because I think these are really cool. But look at how beautifully active these prominences are. And just to give you a sense, like this is probably, I'm just going to guess, 5 or 8 Earths long, maybe even longer than that. That just gives you a perspective. Everything is so very much larger than the Earth there. So that's a little bit about solar telescopes. They cost probably around the same price as a refracting telescope, more or less. They are only good for looking at the sun. So they're limited, but they do the one thing that they do is pretty cool. So that's what I want to say about that. Okay, and yes, we have a question.
For the benefit of people looking to buy a telescope, could you explain the difference in mounts of an equatorial and alt-azimuth?
I will try. So an equatorial mount like this one, and this is an alt-azimuth mount here. This is our Dobsonian mount. We have different mounts. So with an equatorial mount like this, you can basically set it up so it's pointing north, And once it's pointing north, you should be able to sort of get it to track the kind of thing that you're looking at with just one wheel. I don't have the wheels attached to it for tracking, but it keeps it moving along exactly following the pathway of the stars or the sun. That's what an equatorial mount does for you. It's a little bit, you have to set it up. It's a little bit trickier than some of the other mounts. But once you learn how to use it, it's very easy, I think. But not as easy as this. I think the Alt-Az mount is just super easy. You can swing it around. You can move it around. It'll let you look at different kinds of things. Most of the mounts are available in a version where it's electronic also. So there's an electronic version of an alt-azimuth. So this will track your object. And the Dobsonian, there are some that are made so it will track for you, it'll move for you. But this one that Kenneth brought is just by hand. Okay. Other questions on solar? All right, we have one more presentation. We're trying to run the gamut from different telescopes. We did not pick every telescope type under the sun, but we picked, so to speak, but we picked lots of different ones. And we're going to finish with what I think is a really exciting innovation in telescopes, which is a smart telescope. And so Bill, no, of course not. So Bill is, okay, perfect. So Bill is going to explain about his C-Star smart telescope.
So unlike all these other guys, I'm not prepared with any notes or anything, so I'm winging it. And I can't get this. No, because I want my hands.
There you go.
All right. Well, thought.
Want to put it on you?
There we go.
We have a question here from the chat while we're setting up.
Okay.
What camera do you recommend for solar photography?
That's a very good question. Number one, it has to be one with a fast frame rate. That's right, I don't have my. It has to be a camera with a fast frame rate. That's probably one of the most important things. It should be a camera. It does not need to be a color camera. The sun actually doesn't have any particular. It's white. Okay, so there's not any particular. Even though it looks yellow to us, that's through our atmosphere. So you don't need to have any particular color camera for it. So you can use a mono or a color camera. And you should probably use a camera with a fairly large sensor if you have it. That'll give you more detail. That's also a nice thing. I use an ASI 174 mm. I have a bunch of cameras, and that one seems to do better than my other cameras in terms of some of the solar stuff that I've done in the past. And in the past, before I got the PST, the club has two solar telescopes, Coronados just like that are bigger. One's a 60 and one's a 90. And we really enjoyed getting some views on that. We brought that out to the eclipse as well. Is that good? Any other questions there?
One comment here. I have an OSC full frame that will do 47 frames per second.
I think you'll be fine and have a great time with that. Don't spend any more money on cameras.
All right, so as Steve said, this is kind of a new thing. I'm also new to astronomy. I've been in the club for 2 years. Started out, I have a 12-inch Dob like Kenny. I also have this C-Star that I bought in January. It is only for astrophotography. There's nowhere to look or put your eye to see anything. Basically, I am running mine in what's called equatorial mode. It can also be run in Alt-Az, which is basically this part is vertical, and it either spins this way, or this can rotate this way. But I'm running in what's called EQ mode, which is about the same results, except it does eliminate what's called field rotation that you get from an Alt-Az setup in astrophotography. They're very inexpensive, about $550 for this. There's other models that are $350. There's others that are thousands. So again, it's only for taking pictures. Once you go through a polar alignment, which You basically point this thing at the North Star, you tell it on it, you use an app to communicate with it on a phone or a tablet. Once you tell it to initiate the polar alignment, it starts doing its thing. It looks at the sky. It does what's called plate solving, looks at a couple of stars, figures out where it's at. And from there on, you can go to thousands of objects that are in the catalog built into the app. You can image for hours at a time. Once you've got it set up, which takes under 5 minutes, you can go back in the house. You don't need to babysit. It can be, I've had it out at 5 below zero. It gets all frosty, but it just keeps on chugging. Again, you're on the couch where it's nice and warm, watching a movie. You can check on what it's doing. It basically is taking short exposures between 10 and 60 seconds and stacking them repeatedly on top of each other. Let's see, what else? It's also, you can use it for daytime scenery, as I think Jeff mentioned, looking at his neighbors and stuff like that. Again, it has a huge catalog of thousands of deep space objects. The one negative for this kind of a setup, at least for this one, is that it's not good for planets at all. You can look at the sun with it and the moon and get some really good photographs.
It comes with a solar filter.
It does come with a solar filter because you'll fry your, I believe you would fry the scope, right?
Melt it.
Yeah,
I've seen it melted.
so it'll, yeah, you have to have it on, the filter on. Let me, I'm gonna connect to it real quick just so I can make it move.
See if I can find some photos taken with it while you're doing
Yeah,
While he's looking, what's good about that also is as it takes and stacks these pictures, it then transmits, if you will, those pictures onto your phone or your tablet. So you can take
Yeah.
some pictures and then have those on your phone to show your family and friends. So it's
Yeah.
a very easy way to get some good astrophotographs and have those, you know, at a moment's touch, to pull those up and take a look at them. So that's real convenient.
yep. So if I were outside and ready to image, I would go through a little quick selection on the menu, and it would basically open the arm and start doing its thing to find the stars that it's going to plate solve with. So I mean, as you can see, the arm is rotating to probably about a 90 position there, 90 degree. The way I use mine, once it's on it only rotates this way to a target. This never moves. Once it's on target, this never turns. It's just this part turns, and that's how it stays on the target with, I guess, the circular rotation of the sky.
So does it plate solve initially? I guess it does.
Yes.
Or is it, and
Yeah.
then it locks into place and then just,
Once it's plate solved and whatnot, you just start figuring out what you want to
Yeah.
image, and it's great. I mean, it can go to anything that is billions of light years away. I mean, it's crazy. And again, it's very simple. It's very inexpensive. It's definitely, you have to make that decision early on, is do I want to take pictures or do I want to use my eyeball? So this is not an eyeball type telescope, but it produces some amazing pictures. It's technically a low end quality type astrophotography setup. You can spend thousands and thousands of dollars for high end stuff like what Jeff has here that make much better pictures. But for an entry level, I think it's bringing a lot of people into the astronomy and astrophotography field that probably never would have considered it in the past. So it's a great little tool. I have a great time with it.
the public loves it.
That
So
they
you-
do. They're like, what is that little thing?
So, you know, a lot of times, looking through a telescope, we're fascinated by these little faint fuzzies, right? Well, with a scope like that, it's gonna take a multi-stacked image. It's gonna be brighter, it's gonna be more detailed, it's gonna be larger, much more of a wow pop factor, again, to show family and friends and the public. So,
Yeah.
those sea stars are a great marketing tool for the amateur astronomy community.
And I belong to several Facebook groups. Believe it or not, there are people that have 4 of these, and they set them up identical, and they gather 4 times the sub or integration time, you know, in the same amount of time for, you know, what, a $2,000 investment. So, which is a lot of money, but it can be done that way. So,
Well, that's not a lot of money when you think about, you know, the
True.
high-end stuff.
true, it's really not.
It's not a lot of money.
So these are sea star images?
Yes.
Yeah.
And there are, like I said, this is an S50, which is over here in the corner of the picture. There's also an S30, which basically just has a wider field of view. This is a 50 millimeter aperture lens with a 250 millimeter focal length. The S30 is a 150.
So that's a 50. So it-
Yeah, same
aperture-wise,
size.
it's the same size as that refractor.
And you can see there's the lens right there.
Yeah.
I really don't know I assume the camera guts and all that are back in this section here. Never been inside of it, don't know what it looks like. It just does its thing. It can run off of USB power, so you can put an external battery pack on it, or a Jackery or whatever those things are, and it'll run, you know, for days on end. Or just plug it into an outlet. So if you have something near, you know, outside. I can't really think of much else at the moment, but anybody got any questions?
Those are what, 500 bucks?
Yeah.
a pop?
Well, $550 now. I paid $450 but when it was on sale, but the tariffs bumped it up 50, so
Look for holiday specials.
yes. You can get the S30 right now, I think for $350. It was $400. It's on sale for Christmas. So far, I haven't seen these on sale. I don't know why, but there is an S30 Pro getting ready to come out, which will be similar to the current S30, but it will also have I think the ability to do like Milky Way shots, so something that's very wide angle. Don't know what the price will be yet that I've seen, so I think that's about all I got on it.
Mention the tablet and laptop.
Well, yeah, I mean, you run it off either your tablet or your phone, or technically, I guess you could run it off your TV if you wanted to, you know, smart TV. Any internet-connected device. Plus, you can also run this from anywhere in the world with an internet connection. That's just a new update that came out. So as long as this guy's outside and you've got a way to power it on, you can be in Paris and you're firing up your scope at home here in Louisville, Kentucky. So pretty cool.
Well, thank you, Bill.
Yep.
All right. That's it. So I've seen a photo from, I don't know, West Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, where there's this building where the roof slides off. It's in the middle of the desert, very dark, and the roof slides off, and inside that building are hundreds of these exact telescopes. So people are sending their $500 telescopes out into the desert, and they're imaging 280 nights a year with them.
$100 a month for a C-Star.
It's 100. Is that the rental?
Yep.
Yeah. So
Starfront?
At Starfront, $100.
yeah,
Put you on a little rail.
Yeah.
Like a rail.
Yeah. I first saw that, I busted out laughing. You know, they have these exquisite telescope setups, and here's a whole line of sea stars. You know, it's great.
yeah, those
Make the money off of it.
You betcha.
yeah, it's a great use of cheap land, which is out in the desert. You know, they figured out something like it's valuable for astronomers. So we want to thank you for watching the video. Thank you all for being here tonight. For those folks who participated, thank you so much for sharing your expertise, your passion, your experiences with your telescopes. I find it very contagious and inspiring. I'm going to go out and buy one of these. And no, I'm not going to buy one of those. But it's really, yeah. Okay, hold on. We got another comment here.
Well, you can do it or I can do it, whatever.
You do it.
One thing I might just kind of, as a global, do I need to come up here?
There you go. He can move you around.
There you go.
No, good, okay. Is, as you review the video and hopefully get something out of it, look at the scopes that we have up here and you think, man, I want to get one of these things. So the next question is, where do I buy a telescope? Okay? So I thought I might just kind of real quick, just throw, while we don't necessarily want to say you need to buy this particular brand, this particular scope, because what the best scope for you is your decision. But maybe to throw out some general ideas on where to look online, that sort of thing. The first thing I want to kind of point out is what not to do, and that is do not buy a telescope at a Walmart or a Meijer or your typical sort of shopping place like that. So they tend to be sort of junk scopes. They're going to be really irritating, and you're not going to be able to do much with it. And they can be real hobby killers. So your box retail stores, you generally want to stay away from those. Some of the prime places that we go shopping online for telescopes and telescope equipment, and y'all can help me out here, Skywatcher, High Point Scientific, Astronomics, SV Boney, William Optics, Agena Astro. Those are kind of
Cloud Optics. Something like that.
Flow. It's FLO.
Q-Tech.
What?
Q-Tech.
Hugh-Tech?
Yeah.
Haven't heard of that one. Okay.
Well, they make, they do the modified DSLR cameras,
Okay.
but they also make the Q-Tech telescopes.
Okay.
And those are good telescopes.
Well, those are just a few names. I'm sure there's probably other ones, but those are the more popular online sites that deal in Oh, how can you forget? B&H Photographic up in New York. They got everything. Yeah. So if you're looking for some telescopes or telescope equipment, you want to check out those various sites. And they have not only just the gear, but a lot of times they'll have some information, some tutorials about, kind of what information we presented here tonight. So with that, I guess I'll throw it back to you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jeff. And thank you all for paying attention and asking questions. It's greatly appreciated. I would say also with shopping for telescopes, again, your biggest resource is your local astronomy club. LAS is a resource. And if you want to call these vendors, they should talk to you. And ask them questions about the telescopes. Tell them what your goals are. Let them earn your business that way as well. So thank you to the members who've watched, and everybody have a good evening, and maybe we get clearer skies tomorrow night.
Are we off?
We have two comments. One says, "Do it again, please," and someone else said, "Agree."
Let's start from the beginning and do it again.
I don't think they mean tonight.
Yeah, I don't think so either. What was the other comment?